Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums, because it's Sunday. That's what we do on each and every Sunday. Today is no exception. Today we're going to take a look at the short but very cool discography of a U.S. jazz rock band, I guess you could call them. They have elements of funk and soul and regular rock and fusion as well. But a career that was cut short by a tragic plane crash. The band, of course, is Chase, who released three studio albums in the early 1970s, 1971, 72. I'm sorry, 1971, 72, yeah, and 74 were the three releases. They did, however, release another album in 1977 that was made as a tribute to their fallen bandmates, and specifically band leader Bill Chase. Chase is the band I'm talking about. I originally wasn't going to include that fourth album. I decided to do that, so sorry for everybody who went and just listened to the first three albums. It's okay. I've never owned the fourth album, but I did go and check it out, give it a couple spins, just so I can kind of talk about it at least and throw it in here. But anyway, like I mentioned, this is the band put together by trumpet player, songwriter Bill Chase. He's the leader of this band. He wanted to make a horn-based jazz rock, soul, and funk band, kind of mirrored by the success of bands like Blood, Sweat, and Tears in Chicago, right? This was right around that same time, shortly thereafter. And the original idea on the first two albums, he put together a full trumpet lineup. So Bill Chase, you got Ted Piercefield, Alan Ware, and Jerry Van Blair. Those are the trumpet guys. And then you had a whole host of folks in the band, basically changed for every album on guitars, keyboards, bass, and drums, right? And vocals and things like that. But that for the first two albums anyway, that remained the core of the band. So we got four albums, right? I'm going to rank them as I like them. I will say this was very, very, very difficult because especially the three main albums before the plane crash are all really, really strong. All three are slightly different from each other, but in a good way, I think. And I'll just read a little blurb on kind of the ending of the band here. So the band started working on a fourth album in mid-1974, but then on August 9th, 1974, half the band were actually en route to a performance in Minnesota at the Jackson County Fair, and the plane crash. All right, so in Jackson, Minnesota. And on the plane was leader Bill Chase, the pilot and the pilot's girlfriend, keyboardist Wally Yawn, drummer Walter Clark, and guitarist John Emma. And that was basically, the rhythm section for most of the rhythm section, and the keyboard player and guitar player and leader Bill. So about half the band that was together on that third album gone, and the band just basically disbanded. So what they did a couple of years later is they decided to bring in a lot of the original players and someone else to kind of lead the band as a tribute to Bill and the original band. So I'll talk about that actually right now, right? Because that's going to be my number 4, and I don't have a copy of that to show off. But the album is called Watch Closely Now from 1977. So here you have most of the surviving members and prior members. They bring in Walt Johnson to take over the kind of lead trumpet role, again, meant as a tribute to Bill. And it's very much, I think, this album flavored after the first two, more specifically the second album. It's much, much more of a vocal-oriented album. Also appearing once again on vocals, because he was on the third album, is Jim Peterick, a very young Jim Peterick. That's a name you've heard quite a bit in more recent times, right? As guy, songwriter supreme, worked with a lot of different bands throughout the 80s and 90s, a lot of solo stuff. Jim Peterick has been a very, very common name on the melodic rock scene, the AOR scene, right? So Jim Peterick worked with Chase very early on in his career. Some good tracks on here. Having a Good Time, fun track. Angry Young Man, also really good. Again, these songs are kind of lively, funky, soulful jazz rock bands. You got all the horns, right? You got the cool, groovy rhythms. You got a song like Superman, upbeat, groovy jazz rock, blazing horns on that. Writing on the Wall is a fun rocker. And I also like What You Say, which again really brings the funk. I think it's a decent album. It's not quite up to par of the original three, but I think it's a nice tribute, and it captures the feel of the band prior to the plane crash. And if you're going to go out great way to go out. And this band in various different incarnations has done like live stuff, and there's some live albums floating around out there, and they've continued to kind of pay this tribute to Bill or on and off over the years. But this was like the last official kind of like, let's do kind of like a Chase album type of thing. So that's my number 4. Coming in at number 3, like I said, the top 3 are really, really difficult. I'm going to go... I almost had this at my number 1. I changed this ranking so many times. I'm going to go with their second album, which is called Enia. And this, I have a three albums on 2 CDs. This is from the BGO, folks. Always good to get these. So this is the second album right here. It's called Enia from 1972. So here you have a guy named J.J. Shin, who basically becomes the lead singer of the band, taking over for Terry Richards, who was the main singer on the first album. You got a song called Swanee River, which sounds a hell of a lot like Blood, Sweat, and Tears. If you like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, you'll love this band. If you like Chicago, I get more Blood, Sweat, and Tears in this band than I do Chicago, but they kind of have their own sound. But it's much, much more Blood, Sweat, and Tears to my ears. The grooves are immense. The horn arrangement is stellar. Swanee River is a great, great opener. You got So Many People. Nice soulful song, great trumpet. Night is up next. That's a more darker, atmospheric piece. Cool organ and guitar riffing, got menacing horns, killer vocals. Definitely check out Night. Very good song. Might be my favorite here, but there's a lot of favorites here. It Won't Be Long, more soul pop. You got the soaring funk and soul of I Can Feel It. I really like the lengthy Woman of the Dark, which has some great vocals from Mr. Shin, and the horns are absolutely outstanding. And then you got a song called Cronus, which has a new guitar player. At the time, they changed guitar players like every album. Angel South was his name. Play some very cool Terry Kath-inspired guitar soloing on that. Cronus, another favorite here. Really good song. Then you got a track like Zeus, which has lots of organ. More killer arrangements. Another easy highlight on this album. Poseidon is more menacing, more of a rocker, lethal vocals, stabbing horns, really nice drum work, nice guitar riffs. Another really good track on here. And then you got Aphrodite, Part 1 and Part 2, Venus. That's more kind of cool, atmospheric, kind of laid-back jazz rock. I like those. And then the last track is called Hades, and in parentheses, Pluto. And that's, again, kind of like that funk, a little more upbeat than the Aphrodite tracks, a little more kind of like in that funk fusion, funk jazz rock type of thing. I think it's a really strong album. Compared to the first album, I think there's maybe a little bit more soul and funk on here to mix with their jazz rock. And whereas the first album is a little bit more rock-oriented and longer songs, I think here the tracks are a little shorter. There's a lot of like 2 and 3 minute long tracks on here. But it made it to number 71, not quite as high as the first album, but still pretty good seller when you think about it. So that is my number 3. Coming in at number 2, I'm going to go with the debut album, simply called Chase, from 1971. Right there. Okay, opens up with a song called Open Up Wide. Why not start off an album with Open Up Wide? It's a scorching jazz rock instrumental with sizzling horns, great organ solo, and I apologize for all the dog barking downstairs. Living in the Heat, funky vocal piece. You got Terry Richards singing this particular one. You got a song called Hello Groceries, another fast-paced, funky number. Wild trumpet riffing, wah-wah guitars, all that kind of stuff. You got Jerry Van Blair on lead vocals on that one, so that they kind of mix up the vocals on the first album. They do have like a regular singer, but they got everybody kind of takes part in that. Handbags and Glad Rags, more soulful piece, definite clear Blood, Sweat, and Tears flavor on that. Get It On was the big hit on the album. Okay, that made it to number 24 on the US singles charts. Strong, upbeat, jazz rock and funk, ripping organ solo, great horn arrangements, really good song. It was a hit for a reason, right? Then you got Boys and Girls Together, another really good horn arrangement on that one. Invitation to a River is the 14-minute closer. And that's like big, expansive, lots of soloing. It's mostly instrumental, but there are some vocals here. Really cool horn, guitar, and organ soloing throughout it. Really good grooves, strong vocals from Mr. Richards, and this album itself made it to number 22 on the Billboard charts, number 46 in the States. 46 in Australia, So, yeah, I think it's a really, really good album, and like I said, kind of cool to end it with this kind of long, expansive, like epic, which is built up of all sorts of different parts and things like that. that was my number one originally. It was my number one. It was my number three. It's now my number two. Let's go to number one, shall we? Number one, kind of a surprise. I did not expect this. I'm going to go with their third album and final album before the plane crash. That is right there. It's Pure Magic from 1974. All right. Many different musicians used again on this album. Again, rotating lineup. Even some of the trumpet players changed this time around from the initial four, but it's always led by Bill. He's like the main soloist here. And like I said, you got Jim Peterick appears on vocals here. Change on this album, though, it's moving more in like a fusion direction. So longer tracks, mostly instrumental. There are some vocals here, but long instrumental passages. Really good stuff here. Weird song. Killer jazz rock fusion track to open things up. Synthesizers appearing for the first time. Really cool song. Wally Yan is the keyboard player on the album. Of course, he passed away in the plane crash. Really good player. Run Back to Mama, funky fusion song. Great vocals from Peterick. You got the lengthy Twinkles. Slower, more expansive piece. Lovely lead trumpet from Bill Chase. You know, if you like the kind of more mellower atmospheric Miles Davis stuff with that kind of like far away reaching trumpet stuff, that's kind of what that song is all about. Let's see, you got Bachawa, groovy, funky instrumental, sizzling organ solo from Jan, and a screaming guitar solo from a guy named John Emma. Really, really good player, good solo on there. You got Love Is On the Way, sounds like similar period Chicago, circa like early on 1974. Really catchy track. Excellent vocal piece, excellent horn arrangements. That coulda, shoulda been a hit. Love Is On the Way. Definitely check that out. And then Close Up Tight is the closer. Another winner. Killer, funky grooves. Great lead soloing from Mr. Chase on trumpet. And another dazzling guitar solo from John Emma. I think it's a really enjoyable album. Sadly, this one didn't really catch on at all compared to the first two. Even though it's probably, for the time, 1974, fusion is riding pretty high at the time. I'm surprised it wasn't kind of pushed that way. But it's definitely less kind of commercial sounding, so to appeal to like the pop and soul folks, it's definitely more in a jazz rock and fusion vein. So maybe I kind of get it, but I think the playing on it is outstanding. And that's my number one. So I'm going to go with Watch Closely Now from 1977 as number 4. Number 3 is going to be Enya from 72. Number 2 is going to be Chase, the self-titled debut. And number 1, I'm going to go with Pure Magic, their third album from 1974. So if you've had a chance to listen to this stuff, let us know what you think. Let me just show you a little bit, some pictures here so you get an idea of what the guys in the band look like, right? There's Mr. Chase right there. Right there. I can never get this. There we go. It's always backwards when you're looking at the Zoom. Or in this case, QuickTime when I do it. I do these on QuickTime when I do my solo shows. But yeah, just take you through the booklet here real quick. This is, if you can get this BGO 2 CD set with the first 3 albums, I highly recommend it. This is really good stuff. If you love kind of like the early 70s horn-led jazz rock stuff, this is well worth getting. A band kind of cut short due to tragedy. Where have we heard that before, right? So, but yeah, that is my ranking for the band Chase. Might be unknown to many of you, but definitely a cool band to investigate from this time period if you like the early 70s, kind of like I said, horn-led jazz rock stuff. So check it out. Check them out. 3 albums or 4 albums if you want to include the later kind of tribute thing. Rank them in the comments below, and visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. I'm trying hard not to sneeze. That's why I keep stopping and starting here. You ever get that moment? You're just kind of like, all right, yeah. So visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell to get alerted of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below, we got the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, and our Cameo page. Thanks in advance for all your support there, and we'll see you soon here with more stuff. I am Pete Pardo. As far as what's coming up next week, I got to check because I'm away on business all week, and it's going to be kind of hard to come back Friday and hook up with someone and do a dual team up type of a ranking show. I have a bunch of them planned. I got some planned with Grant. I got some planned with Ryan Scow, and I got some planned with I got one planned with Scott from the Prog Corner. I got all these ones on my list, and we'll get to all of them. But with me being away all week, it's kind of hard. So I'm just going to do one, like a smaller discography like this one. That'll be easy for me to kind of fill in on the weekend, and then the following weeks you'll have all the normal stuff. So more on that very, very shortly. I'll let you guys know by midweek at minimum, if not sometime later this weekend, tonight or tomorrow, what next week is going to be once I just kind of look at the schedule and figure it out. So thanks for watching, everybody. I am Pete Pardo. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.